Welcome to Rivendell. Welcome to Rivendell.
Hello, I'm Nathan. Welcome to Rivendell. This is the second part of my video on the art and music I did in 2020. In the last one I talked about January through about mid-March. In this one I'm talking about the music I did pretty much from mid-March to through the rest of the year, the original music, but I thought it was important to give some context before I get into that. March 2020 was a time of a lot of uncertainty increasing for a lot of people. The pandemic was going around, things were getting shut down, people's lives were being incredibly disrupted, and there was just a lot of uncertainty involved. And as a sociologist, when I was in grad school, one of my main focuses was social identity. And one component of social identity theory is what's called uncertainty identity theory.
If you weren't very sure about who you are, right, what person you are, or who you should be in a particular context, then how would you figure out what to do? What attitudes should you express?
One of the ideas in uncertainty identity theory is that when an individual feels uncertain have feelings of uncertainty about themselves and who they are, they're more likely to join groups.
Uncertainty identity theory, it's a theory about what motivates people to join groups, to identify with social categories. Social categories can be like a national group, a political group, an ethnic group.
That give them a sense of identity, tell them and let them know through social cues how they're supposed to behave, what they can expect.
Then you can kind of figure out how you should behave, how you should interact with people who are like you, how you should interact with people who are not like you.
And then I tweeted, and then I tweeted, and then I tweeted. Are you down? What do you do? You're wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask. There's my society all around you. Where is my soul? Where is the love? Where am I? You're wearing a mask. You're wearing a mask. They say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I can never do Iggy Pop justice. He's just so freaking cool. And it tends to reduce the uncertainty. The assumption is that, human beings, we have certain desires, all of us. And one is that we want to reduce uncertainty. Another one is that we all want some kind of sense of belonging. And in today's world with, Trump, he is still in office for another 10 days or something. This brought even more uncertainty to people's lives. And if you look at some of the research that's happened since then, QAnon, their numbers went through the roof during March 2020. A lot of people joined these more extreme kind of groups because when you're in a situation that's uncertain, one of the functions of being a part of these groups is that it reduces people's uncertainty. The parallel is, why did I get involved in the punk rock community? Well, my family was kind of falling apart and my life was a little uncertain. The punk rock community, this isn't a video, if you haven't seen them, you can go back and look at them, gave me a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. Unfortunately, with the American narrative that we often have in our country, folks who have been, marginalized groups who have been having increased senses of uncertainty since the 1980s under Reagan, particularly working class whites is what I'm talking about. The Reagan era has conditioned them to see anything in terms of class as somehow socialist or commie or something that can in no way be a part of their identity. Which works right into the hands of these social inequities that have been going on since, early 80s, late 70s. Even more unfortunate is that they tend to join these groups like Proud Boys or Boogaloo Boys or QAnon that give them a sense of certainty within that. And the sieging of the Capitol the other day is just a really good example of what can happen when people aren't critically thinking about their behavior and actions.
It's bad for people in society if this is all you do. You organize your whole life around identifying and belonging to a particular group.
And one of the things that I see in all the pieces that I'm going to share with you in terms of the music and art that I'm putting in here is that they really do touch on, not in an academic way, but just in a general way, these themes of uncertainty, identity. There's a song I took more seriously and a video I did called Your Own Hero. I have a couple things to say about uncertainty identity theory and how it applies to Trump supporters, so I'll do that between little segments. I've been asked a couple times, how do you record your songs? And so I'm going to walk you through that real quick. I wanted to talk a little bit about Your Own Hero, which was the first song and video that I really sank my teeth into, and it took me a while to finish it, even though the initial riff came to me really quick. Chord progression that I just came up with. Get just a click track or a rhythm track of some kind down so that I will stay in meter the entire song. So I'm not a great drummer, so the way that I did this, since I didn't want to just have a drum machine, was I recorded different drums individually and then I mixed them all together. Riff on this one, I believe I have 3 guitar tracks. I got this one on the first channel, I got this one, second channel, and I lay a bass line of some kind, and I just play over it and over it until I'm happy with the bass line, so I think that's on track. And this song, I have what I call a key pad, which means you have some keys in the background. And then once I have all the instruments and I'm kind of happy with them for the time being, what I do is I usually burn a CD, and then I'll drive around and think about a vocal melody and work that out. This song, I ran the vocals through guitar pedals. I used a digital delay and a chorus on song. I'm always self-conscious about my voice because I'm not a great singer. I'm happy if I just stay in key.
Seems every day there's people persuaded by politics of greed and fear.
Make a mix and listen to it a few times and then call it good. And then that's how I record my songs. And that's pretty much how I do it. Here's a clip of Your Own Hero, and if you're interested in seeing the whole video, I posted the whole video on my page a few weeks ago.
Waiting for strong saviors, our heroes live inside. We don't know why we're cheering for the team that they told us to cheer for.
So I did this painting, well actually I started a few years ago with just the tree outline in the back, and I did that in Alberta, Canada on a road trip, and then most of it I finished it with stencils this spring, and it was right, I don't know, probably a few weeks after the whole Corona thing hit, so the little things were going to be, I think fairy dust or something, but the meaning kind of got into Coronas, like these little guys, I don't know. But it was sunny, and I put it outside. It was outside until the weather got too cold to have to keep it outside. As per usual, this is going longer than I anticipated, so I'm going to turn it into a 3-parter rather than a 2. Before I go, I'm going to do one more segment on a piece of graphic art that I collaboratively did with a person I met named Adam Casco, and he's the singer for a band called Nerd Table. In the spring, I started thinking about what I was going to be doing in the fall. My assumption at the time was that schools would be back open and it wouldn't be too hard to find some work. It's January and schools are still shut down here, and I'm not sure when they'll open. So that was a false assumption. One of the ideas I had though was to have small group after school guitar lessons out of my house. And I developed a logo, I printed business cards and guitar picks. Time I was on Facebook for a couple months. I hadn't been on Facebook for years, but it was shut down and I guess I was bored or something. I got on Facebook for a couple months. I'm not on it anymore. And so I posted, I think, my business card or something. And I'm sure you're all familiar with Kiss. And if not, there's here's one of their albums, one of their more popular ones. But I was kind of riffing off of the Kiss logo, and it was South Sound Guitar Academy is the name, and so I used the font for South Sound to be the S's. And we must have a common friend, but this guy named Adam Casto, who's a singer for a band called Nerd Table out of Ohio.
We are joined tonight by Mr. Adam Casto.
Yes, thank you guys.
Contacted me and said something about it being a Nazi symbol, the SS. And, I looked it up real quick, even though, I knew this, but I just wasn't on my radar at the time for whatever reason. It probably should have been. I realized I had to change it. I realized I did not want to be handing out business cards with something that could possibly be associated with Nazis. Even if that wasn't my intent. I didn't want that association. And he offered to help me. This process lasted a couple weeks, and we went back and forth with ideas, and it was a true collaborative process. I actually enjoyed it. I wish I could have paid him more than I did. He did a great job. So he helped. Together we came up with this logo. I had a banner printed, and my sister-in-law, we went out and did some signage on the street on a busy intersection. And I'm still hoping to do that, but schools are still shut down, and I'm not sure when that would be a possibility. This video's already getting beyond 10 minutes, so I'm going to leave it there and pick it up in the next one, the third installment, and I hope to see you there.
Welcome to Rivendell. Welcome to Rivendell.